Welcome back. The South African Students' Congress says the Department of Higher Education is to be blamed for a shooting incident at Walter Sisulu University yesterday that left one student dead. Sisonke Mbolekwa was killed, another student was injured, allegedly by a university staffer. The students were protesting to demand the removal of the residence manager, who they've accused of misconduct. Well, let's unpack the story further in studio now. Nhlonipho Nxumalo is with the South African Union of Students. She's an NEC member there. Thanks very much for coming into studio. It's great to have you here to give us some clarity on the issues at Walter Sisulu University. We understand the protests erupted as a result of accommodation issues. We know that's not unique to any one university, but how does that relate to Walter Sisulu University?
Firstly, thank you for having me, and condolences to the family, the friends and fellow students. We understand that this situation has made students to be even more scared of voicing out their frustrations going forward, because they fear that they'll be victimized and in fact even lose their lives. The accommodation crisis, the campus SRC has raised that the protest that happened in the morning, that was as a result of the student being shot, was because they were voicing out in terms of the maintenance that they do not also have Wi-Fi, and therefore as a result this is why the protest happened. And this is similar. He also, the campus premier also raised that they pay 40K per student in the campus, and therefore you would understand that the universities exploit students and take so much money but not to give them the necessary maintenance services that they need. And this is happening across institutions of higher learning, where they charge exorbitant fees only for them to not provide the full services that are required by students. I mean, for example, Wi-Fi, if they're raising concerns of Wi-Fi, you would understand that how critical Wi-Fi is for a student, because you wake up, things are uploaded online. So what must happen? Must you wake up every time you want to study, go to the library? Libraries sometimes close. So therefore, the issue of the Wi-Fi is critical. They also raise concerns of water. So you therefore need to provide essential services, especially if you're going to exploit students and charge them exorbitant fees. Because imagine if you're charging a student 40,000
and that's
for just a room for a month. No, 40,000 is for the year.
40,000.
That's 10. That's right. 10 months. 40,000, and then there's another student that you're sharing with. So a small room like this is charged for 80K a year. I mean, in Midrand and in four ways, you can get a very decent apartment for that. So students are exploited for small rooms, and they still don't get the necessary services. So we are condemning the institutions that use such instances to exploit students.
Yeah, and I've seen photos and videos of these rooms on social media. Some of them don't have a mattress. It's just an empty bed frame, no hot water, really shoddy looking showers. So it's not just the issue of the high price perhaps of sharing a space with another student, but it's that it comes with not even the bare minimum.
Yeah, it doesn't come with the bare minimum. And we do commend NSFAS for centralizing the accreditation of residences, right? Because it sets a bar to say if a resident doesn't meet the standard, therefore we're not going to accredit it. However, with the institutions of higher learning, they obviously have the privilege, because I mean they are the ones that accredit their universities, their residences, and therefore the NSFAS pays them. So they don't have to be scrutinized by the NSFAS accreditation system. And therefore we are saying that the Department of Higher Education must therefore play a critical role in terms of regulating universities as well, especially their accommodation, because they charge exorbitant fees for services that for things that they don't even provide the basic services, like you said. And therefore we're saying the department also needs to regulate the universities and the institutional autonomy that they have.
I mean, this accommodation issue comes up year after year. The centralization of the accommodation, this FAS accommodation, was meant to do some good things. It doesn't appear to have been successful, though.
Yeah, it hasn't been quite successful. However, I think we can mention a few victories that have been achieved through that, because, for example, you would understand that before this system of centralization was introduced, TVET colleges would get less budget in terms of the accommodation, and therefore that will result in you going across the country. You'd see that their accommodation was worse, like you can't even live in such conditions. However, now because it is now at the level of universities as well, we will see improvement in terms of their accommodations, because now the private sector will equally want to invest in those spaces where they build residences. There's also been, in terms of, for example, if you go to Braamfontein, South Point would charge exorbitant fees to students. However, now that, because they know that NSFAS is going to pay anyway, but now that there's a cap, they are forced to come to the amount and meet NSFAS halfway to say, okay, we are willing to take NSFAS students for this amount. So I think there are good things that are happening with this centralization of the NSFAS. However, it might take some bit of time, and we do hope that with time, the accreditation team will be able to fully scrutinize and accredit accordingly, and not maybe according to who knows who, but accordingly to the standard as set in the policies that they're supposed to follow.
Yeah, I understand that even the inspection of these residences, there is quite a delay on people getting accredited. There are places sitting empty because they've yet to be accredited. So in terms of the South African Union of Students now and what's unfolded at Walter Sisulu University, what is your next step in terms of your conversations with NSFAS?
Mainly what unfolded with the issue of WUSU, it's more of an institution conversation, to say that institutions are the ones that regulate these accommodations where the incident took place, and therefore this is a conversation that is supposed to happen at WUSU, with the WUSU management, with the Department of Higher Education, and obviously NSFAS can come into the conversation. However, primarily it's the university and the department, to say that the department has given institutions so much autonomy that they govern themselves. Like I said, institutions don't go through the scrutiny of the accreditation processes. They don't go through that. They are just assigned students, and then NSFAS will pay them the money. So therefore, we're saying that the department needs to put an eye into this institutional autonomy and also regulates the institutions.
All right. Well, thanks very much indeed for coming into studio, giving us a sense of these, what feels like perennial challenges in the higher education sector. Nhlonipho Nxumalo is with the South African Union of Students as we continue to unpack what's unfolding at Walter Sisulu University.